Well, here we are again, and it's Monday, October 27th, and today we're going to do the preview for the Wooley and Wallis sales that are coming up, the Chinese sales only. We're going to do a separate one for the Japanese sale because this Wooley and Wallis has really sort of outdone themselves this time around. They've got 4 auctions over the course of 3 days. 3 of them are Chinese works of art, and then there's a very good Japanese sale coming up. So I want, if you're a Japanese collector, we'll try to get that out in the next day or two because it's a wonderful looking sale. There's a lot of nice things in there. And if you're a collector of Japanese items, you're going to want to pay attention to it. But right now we're going to focus on the Chinese works of art because they've done a really good job with the catalogs. This is the Fine Chinese Art Sale that's scheduled for the 11th of November. And there are 2 sales this day, I believe. This one and I think it's the finer sale, the bronze collection. But there are, if you're a bronze buyer, they have a lot of bronzes in these sales, a lot of them, and they all look quite good. The thing to remember though about Wooley and Wallis is their estimates tend to be extremely modest. So you're going to see, we're going to talk about some things in here that are maybe estimated at 2,000 to 3,000. They're going to bring 10,000. Okay, they're going to do much better than the estimates. In particular, the cover lot here is this Southern Sung Celadon funerary vase. It's got a very modest estimate of a few $1,000s. It should do quite well. But there are a lot of good things in here. This flip book is available on their website, so you can get it. And if you're a Patreon subscriber, it's already been posted over on Patreon. We set up the links over there over the weekend, so you can go through and flip this catalog because there's some wonderful stuff, as you can see in here. And they cover a really wide range. They've got some good Tonkas. They've got some good snuff bottles. They've got a lot of ceramics. There's some very fine small bits and so forth. But we're going to look and talk about some of the estimates, though, because they, as I said, very, very modest. Very, very modest. Just as an example, this pair of jars, Daoguan Marken period jars with lime green grounds, famille rose, estimated at 5,000 to 8,000 pounds. All right, these are going to bring more than 5,000 to 8,000 pounds. I suspect. I suspect they'll bring somewhere in the $15,000 to $25,000 range, maybe more. But that's just an aside, and there's some other pieces. But we're going to go through them, and I'll show you what we've sort of pulled out. We just pulled out samples, not necessarily one thing is better than the other. These are just some things to give you an idea of the scope of this sale. One of them is this very nice lapis and lazuli and coral necklace. From the late Qing dynasty, well, 19th century Qing dynasty, could be mid and so forth. A beautiful example. It's got a 2,000 to 3,000 pound estimate. This is a lovely piece. It came from, originally it was bought some years ago at Christie's, I understand, but it's beautifully done. The coral beads are wonderfully finished. The lapis ball beads look quite good on it. They're all of a very uniform color. You don't see a lot of variations in the stone. Sometimes in lapis you'll see very light areas and very, very dark areas, and they're a little bit visually distracting. And in this case, I don't see any of that. So whoever did the necklace was very careful about their selection of the stones. And as you can see on this one, it's a good, clean blue. Nice, even color. Beautiful silk braided hanging pendants and so forth. And then you have this silver gilt work at the bottom with a coral bead. Very, very attractive. 2,000 to 3,000 pound estimate. It'll probably go for more than that, but it's a nice thing. So if you collect Chinese jewelry, it's something to look at. This is a very nice example. It's a very, very sweet example. Also, they've got some very good paintings in here. This one caught my eye. I just thought it was very attractive, and they labeled it as being after Su Han Chun, who was a Qing dynasty painter. But it's a beautifully done painting. If you like Chinese paintings, the workmanship on this, the facial characteristics, the way the activities of the kids and so forth, and it reminds me sort of that 100 Boys thing we were talking about the other day at Rosemary's. Here you have all these wonderful children playing games, lotuses, trumpets, drums. Just having a great time. Here's some getting ready for the Dragon Festival down here. This is a really, really fun painting. If you've got a grandchild or something, and you want to give them something to grow up with, and maybe have some appreciation in Asian art, give them this. Buy this picture for your grandkids. or your grandson or your granddaughter. It's a wonderful picture. It's very, very happy. I like it a lot. Or buy it for yourself. It's estimated at 2 to 4,000 pounds, which I think is very reasonable. This is a large painting. It's 69 centimeters wide. So it's over 2 feet, 25, 26 inches in width, and about 4.5, almost 5 feet tall. So it's a big painting. It's all framed. If you live over in the UK, buy this for yourself. It's a good picture. I like it. I like it a lot. And then you have things like this. There are a number of good Republic ware pieces. And again, very modestly estimated. We've seen this type before. This is a very nice example. It's a little over a foot tall. See if we get this to blow up. There it is. Whoops. But very fine detail. Very fine detail on the faces. The colors are excellent on it. And it's got the sort of hallmark Republic iron red bats on the shoulder done this way, with this very nice grisaille decoration all the way around. This is a very attractive vase, and it's about 13 inches in height. It's a pretty good sized pot. And in the past, when we've seen these come on the market, they tend to sell for $1,800 to $3,000, depending on the day. And there are several. There is another one after this also that's also very, very nice, and probably will do about the same. So you can, the 500 to 1,000 pound estimate is on the very much the low side. As I said at the beginning, you're going to see a lot of this. And then there's this very nice piece of Beijing glass, faceted Beijing glass. It should measure about 9 inches or 6 inches or so, 6 inches in height. Beautifully done. This is a market period piece of Beijing glass, Qing period. Very, very attractive. Very nice color. And it looks to be in very good shape. The edges look nice and smooth on the edges of the facets. I don't see any wear or chips really anywhere. You want to get a condition report just to make sure, but it looks quite good overall. And often these pieces do have wear and chips on the high points going around the sides. So this might be a pretty good opportunity if you're interested in glass. And there it is with the mark on the bottom. And this mark is all, of course, it's wheel cut in. So it looks like it was almost chiseled, but it's done it's called wheel cutting, how they create it. And then they built the frame for it and put the 4-character mark in. It's a nice looking thing. The estimate on it is quite reasonable, 2,500 to 3,500 pounds. It should do better than that. A number of years ago, back in the 90s, I remember we had some of these in an auction in the late 90s, and I think we got $6,000 to $8,000 a piece for them. So just to give you some idea, I don't know if they'll do the same now, but back then that's what they were bringing. All right. And then this is the Celadon that I talked about that was on the cover of the catalog. Southern Sung, really, really nice piece of Celadon ware. Beautiful example. Looks to be in pretty good shape. There's a little roughness around the ear of the ram and on the nose on the high points. But that's fairly typical. In some places, it's just because the glaze went thin, like on the tips of the ears here. That's not damage. That's just where the glaze pulled back on the high points. But a very, very attractive looking pot. Again, you want to get a condition report on it, make sure it's A-OK, but it looks very good. Nice thick glaze curling up at the foot. Estimated at 20 to 30,000 pounds. I think it'll probably do better than that. It's an awfully nice example, but we'll see. We'll see. But beautiful color. The color of this is very, very good. It's that Canuta green that they're so fond of. And then you have this, the Famille Rose Foulon. This is a pretty good size Foulon. It's wonderfully colored. It's wonderfully colored. How big is this thing? I forget. It was fairly good size, as I recall. Yeah, it was 31 centimeters. So it's about 12.5 inches tall. And most of these Famille Rose Foulons that you'll come across are, as you all know, in the 5 to 6 inch range, 7 inches tall maybe. This one is almost double that. So it's a great big one. And originally, it probably had. It's hard to tell whether it's a male or a female. The male often has his paw on the ball, and the female has her paw on the cub. So that's the only way you can really tell them apart. This one is 31 inches, and its paw is just floating in the air, so it doesn't have either. But it's an awfully attractive thing. 3,000 to 5,000 pounds. But beautiful color, and it looks to be a nice early one, probably late 18th century. All right, and then over to this. Now this bowl, this is one of those Empress Dowager bowls, as they call them, shishi bowls. This is an authentic one with the grisaille decoration, nice, strong yellow ground to it. Looks like it's in very good condition. And you may recall a couple of years ago, there was a sale about 2 years ago, I think, that came up where there were a bunch of these pieces in it, the Dajai bowls and grisaille Dajai bowls. And this is only estimated at 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. Expect it to bring closer to probably 3,500 to 4,000. I suspect that's what they've been bringing in recent years. And this is a pretty good size one. It's 17 centimeters in diameter, so it's about 7 inches wide, roughly. And that's the right size for it. But it's got those nice squared sort of, it doesn't go out too much and then go up. It comes out and has a nice strong body shape to it. And that's a shape that a lot of collectors like. And it also is more typical of the market period ones than the Republic ones. And this one looks very, very good. All right. And then over to this, the transitional period beaker of the navigating amongst the rocks underneath the Wutong tree is how it's put in the description. Measures about 8.5 inches, 9 inches tall. But as you all know, transitional wares have been doing awfully well lately, and this one is estimated at 5,000 to 8,000 pounds, and I think it'll make that estimate very, very easily. And by the way, just so you know, Wooley and Wallis has a really good layout on their website here. You'll notice everything enlarges beautifully on this. It comes right up. It takes a second for it to gain its resolution, so it's kind of fun to watch. Colors come up and then suddenly it comes into focus. So they shoot very good pictures. But this is a nice example, nice clean base on it. The cobalt looks good. It looks to be in very, very nice condition. And it measures, as I recall, about 9 inches in height, roughly, somewhere around there. 21.5 centimeters, just a hair under 9 inches tall, but a really nice example. And it could bring 10 to 15,000 pounds by the time it goes, given the popularity of transitional wares. The only thing that might slow some people down from bidding outside of England a little bit is maybe the tariff situation right now, but don't depend on it. Now, this bowl seems to be a very reasonable estimate. This is a Yongchen Marken period dragon bowl. Let's see, how big is this bowl? 18.5 centimeters, so it's a little under 8 inches, about probably seven, looks like about a little over 7 inches, 7.25 inches wide, but a very nice example. Very good cobalt color on it, nice outlining, good detail, nice white porcelain, and very neatly finished at the foot, as you would expect, because it is Marken period, and the mark is right there. All right, this is a good example. If you're a blue and white collector and you like Yongchen pieces, this might be something you want to go after. All right, and then over to this. This, I think, is crazily underestimated. And Wooley and Wallis is a very good, the fellow that runs the company is an Asian specialist himself, so they're pretty careful about dating. Now, they say this is a Marken period Qing vase. Now, it's a flambe glaze. It's beautiful. This is a beautiful, beautiful vase. And it measures 33 centimeters in height, or around 13.5 inches, roughly, somewhere around there, right? But take a look at this thing. The estimate on this, to me, just seems insanely low. Now, maybe it's been shattered down one side, and it's been glued with Elmer's glue and just horribly restored. But if this vase is in good condition, I don't see any possibility of it selling for within the estimate. Not even close. This is a wonderful looking pot, and I can only, I'm complete, this estimate completely befuddles me. There's the Qing mark on the bottom. They're estimating it at 1,500 to 2,500 pounds. All right, now I'm gonna stick my neck out a little here and say, this looks like a $30,000 or $40,000 vase. This is an absolutely wonderful piece of porcelain. There may be something going on with it that I'm missing, but boy, hit this thing with some bids. I think it's wonderful. Now, maybe there's something going on with it that you can't see. There's a request for a condition report on every page. This has some reserve, I suppose, on it, but the reserve doesn't mean a thing. But I can't imagine it's going to sell for that price. This is a wonderful example. If you collect monochromes, look into this. Maybe you'll get a bargain. Who knows? And then speaking of monochromes, this is another one too. This is an unweighed decorated dragon bowl. It is Kangxi Marken period. And how big is this? 6 inches in diameter. This is a very, very nice bowl. There's two of these in the sale, but this one looks like the better one to me. Whoops. What did I do? There we go. Let's pull it in again. There it is. There's the dragon. This is a beautifully decorated bowl. The envoy decoration, the incise decoration is excellent. And for those of you that don't know about this envoy decoration, what it is that when they take a bowl and they have the raw porcelain, they incise the decoration into the body. So when they dip it in the green glaze, where it's been incised, accepts more of the glaze, giving it the detail so you can see the decoration. And sometimes they call it a surprise decoration, and you'll see envoy decoration on white bowls, and you have to hold it up to the light even to see it because there's no color to contrast. But on these green examples and other colors, you can spot it much more readily. But this is a wonderful example, and the incising worked extremely well. The colors really pulled in very, very nicely all the way around. I think this is a terrific bowl, and I suspect this will do better than the estimate. I suspect. The estimate is 4,000 to 6,000 pounds, and don't be surprised if it brings 10 to 15,000. It's a beautiful, beautiful bowl. Could do very, very well, and apparently it's got a fairly long ownership history, going back to the. Probably bought around the turn of the century. The collector of Richard Henry Chenevieve. I don't know him, but didn't know him. Don't know of him, but he had a nice bowl. So you want to look into that. And that's just the first day. That's just the first sale. And then when you hop along over to here, you get the finer collection. And this is Mr. Finer was a bronze collector. I guess he was fairly well known around the UK with the Asian art, with the antique dealers. I guess he was an accountant he was also a collector, and he spent a lot of time with the antique dealers, and he bought some wonderful things, and he built up this beautiful collection, and here it is. And right now, there's a whole bunch of things going on in this part of the collecting market. Just so you know, there is this is going on, and then there are a couple of shows going on over in Hong Kong, and it's at the Metropolitan Museum, and then in Hong Kong on these bronzes and so forth. And there's a write-up in here about one of the collections that's being exhibited at the Metropolitan Museum and then going to be done over in Hong Kong. And there's another exhibition coming up in Hong Kong as well at the university. And I'll talk about them on Friday, so just keep that in mind. There's also a catalog a new book being published about the exhibit that's at the Met. So there's a lot going on in this part of the collecting world. And I think there's a growing intense appreciation for sewn to basically what they call later bronzes. I think it was Rose Kerr titled them, sewn through the early Qing dynasty. And this is a very, very nice collection. And when you go into this one, the finer collection, you're going to see a lot of interesting things. And you're going to see some very, very, very exceptional examples of arrow vases, and then by Hu Wenming. And if you collected bronzes for any length of time, you know who Hu Wenming was. And Mr. Finer apparently was a huge fan. And there are how many Hu Wenming lots are there in this sale? Lots 21 through 40 and lot 100. So there's about 20 lots that were by Hu Wenming in this sale, including all of these. These are absolutely great examples, and there's some fairly rare forms. The bronze bell in particular struck me as being very unusual. He was known to have done hand warmers. Of course, incense burners were his big thing, and then also incense tools like this little vase on the side is also by him. So we're going to go through the sale and take a look at some of these pieces. We'll start with the bronze mirror on stand with the deer. This is a well-known type, but this is a very, very fine example. It measures, it's a pretty good size. It measures 42 centimeters in height. So this is a fairly large example, all right? It weighs 10 kilograms, but it's a big one, 42 centimeters. So that's around, about 18... No, how tall is that? 6, yeah, about 15, 16 inches in height. This is a fairly good sized one. So it's not a little, thing in the corner of your table. You got, this is a presentation piece. Beautifully cast mirror above, and then the clouds, And then here you have the figure here, but wonderful patina and so forth. The surface looks good and undisturbed, which is very important with some of these bronzes, in particular these animal forms. And it's only estimated 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. Will it do better than that? Probably. It'll probably do double that. All right, but it's a great example. And then you have this, the one of the scholar on the horse, of Du Fu on a horse, late Ming, early Qing dynasty, so 16th century to early 17th century, somewhere in there. But a very nice example. And you don't see these riding figures very often. It looks like it's been, maybe it had been lacquered or painted, cold painted at one point. You'll see some cold paint still residue on the horse's ear and so forth. But wonderful facial expression of that horse. Look at his eyes. It's an absolutely beautiful animal. And then you have the figure on top, of course. This is a good piece. Very, very handsome. Measures 24 centimeters in height, so it's pretty good size. It's about 10 inches tall, nearly 10 inches tall, a little under 9¾ inches. Estimated at $1,500 to $2,500. And then hand warmers. This is a very nice hand motor by Wang Zhu. What's really interesting about it is it's a 17th century hand warmer, and somebody has loved this thing to death and kept it in beautiful shape. Look at the cover here. Look at if you notice the faces of the high points on here have sort of worn down. That's because this thing has been polished. This thing has been kept in its original condition by polishing ever since it was new. And you run into this, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but it's a great way to get some confirmation of age when you see these rubbed down areas like this on the faces and on some of the pine needles up here on the side and so forth. You see these smooth over edges, and often you'll see cavities where there's all kinds of dried polish stuck in there, because somebody took amazing care of this. It was bought from Gerald Hawthorne, apparently. It is inscribed on the bottom. It's estimated at 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. If you like hand warmers, that's a dandy hand warmer. And then over to this Zun-shaped vase. This is a fairly rare type, made in the early 17th century of the two immortals. And we've seen these every once in a while. You see these come up, and they always do well. And this one is beautifully cast with the freestanding water buffalo and two immortals on the shoulder of the vase. And then going up the neck, you have all these, they look like, I guess they're fish swimming on the lattices and so forth. Beautifully done. It's about 7 inches in height, as I recall, but really nice surface. 17 centimeters, so about 7 inches in height. That's just about exactly what it is. But the estimate is very low again, 400 to 600 pounds. I think it'll probably do 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. But we'll see. You don't know, but it's a very nice one. And then the arrow vase, the tohus. Now, a couple of years ago, you may remember there was a sale of these that came up at one of the big auction houses. I forget who had it even. Was it Bonhams had it? I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. And these did extremely well. These were sort of under the market for a very, very, very long time. And for some reason, they just weren't, the people were collecting them because they weren't selling for a lot of money. And all of a sudden, people are getting interested in them. They're very complicated, and they're quite large. This one is 59 centimeters. It's almost 2 feet tall. This is a pretty good sized bronze, but it's got some awfully good detail on it. From the top all the way down, you have mythical creatures, very nice casting. And these vases, of course, were used in what was known as the arrow game, which is why you have these tubes on the top, and you would try and throw little tiny spears and have them to go through the openings. That's how the game originated, I guess. And now you see these loop handles on the necks and the sides of vases all the time, just as decorations, fairly commonly done. It was sold by Jan van de Beers, longtime dealer. And this is a really nice one. Good color, mythical beasts, the whole bit. Really, really good. All right, so keep that in mind. And the estimate on this is 6,000 to 8,000 pounds. Then skipping over to this, you get into the Hu Wen Ming examples. There are a bunch of them in here, and I don't ever recall seeing an auction with 19 of his bronzes. He was a very, very famous late Ming bronze caster, and he was particularly notable for this style of bronze, with the raised gilt work and the dark background, which he colored himself. It's a patination technique they use on the bronzes. It's I don't know whether it's a pigment or like, I assume it's some sort of a pigment or something they apply to it to darken the background to make the gilt relief areas stand out. But wonderful example, classic Ming dragon. Whoop, hold on a second. Okay, it was a friend of mine. At any rate, here we are, and so you have these Wen Ming pieces. This is a really, really nice one, beautiful example, and there are a bunch of them in here to look at. Here's that bell I was talking about. This is extremely attractive, beautifully cast, nice. The patina on it's wonderful, very warm, very rich, very deep patina, and the hook on top here is two opposing serpents. And so forth, with a mark on the top of it by the maker, and so forth. There it is. Very nice example. Really, really great. And this one it's not an enormous bell. It's only about 8 inches tall, but it's a beautiful example. Very, very delicately done. And then you have other bronzes in here, like this one. This is a fairly well-known form that you often see here, 17th or 18th century typically. Nicely cast, very detailed on the top, clouds and dragons and so forth. There's the handle with lappets running around it. And then you have this beautiful dragons in the waves pattern at the bottom. And then this nice little bracket foot base going under it. They dated the 17th century. It measures about 9 inches in height. So it's a good size one. And then these are just some of the examples. You got to go through it. If you're a bronze collector, you're going to love this sale. And I would urge you to download and save the pictures. Save these images because and you put them in a PDF file or do something with them, because you don't see this many bronzes in one sale of this quality very often. And I think going ahead, this kind of stuff is going to be a great reference point, especially if you record the prices realized and keep it as a reference when you're out there looking around, or if you're looking at things online. You're going to have something to refer back to. It's a great future resource, thing like this. All right, and then over to the next sale. This is on the 12th. Those two first sales are on the 11th. This is the sale on the 12th. Asian Art Part 2, and this is a fairly big sale. There's quite a bit of material in here. Go through it. Lots and lots and lots of examples in here. Lots of good-looking ceramics. There's some good porcelains. There's a lot of snuff bottles and so forth. And there's a couple of things in here I think are sleepers. So we're going to go through them just so you know. Now let's see. These are more from the finer collection. There's some other examples in there too. And then you have pictures like this Chinese school view of Canton. It's a charming picture. $800 to $1,200 estimate, which seems very reasonable to me. But this is a wonderfully done picture. It's very atmospheric, very soft color palette of Chinese junks, and it's the hongs. And what's interesting is that there are no flags on any of the buildings. So none of the buildings are identified. They used to fly flags on the hongs, of course, so you could tell which hong or factory, as they used to refer to them. If you hear them referred to as factories, just so you know going ahead, they often refer to these buildings in Canton as factories. They didn't actually make things like we think of it in the traditional sense as a factory. It's basically a warehouse with offices in it, but they called them factories, just as a clarification, because a couple of people have asked me about that. When they called them factories, what did they make? And here you have the eye of protection on the bow of the boat and so forth. Very charming. $800 to $1,200 estimate. Lovely picture. Measures 130 centimeters wide, so it's about it's 225 times. About 4 feet, around 4 feet wide. It's a nice looking thing. And then you have this 5-colored finger citron lacquer box. Now this it's 18th century and has an estimate of only 500 to 800 pounds. Now you may remember, I forget who had it, but a couple of years ago there was a pair of these that turned up on a sale, as I recall, and I think the pair of them brought 3,000 to 5,000, somewhere in that price range. So expect this to do pretty well. This is a nice example. I don't see any damage to it. The lacquer work is nice. It's a little dry looking. It may just be the light reflecting off of it. But if it is, there are certain things you can do to oil it up a little bit, put some moisture back in the lacquer. But this is a beautiful box. good color changes. And again, 18th century, measures 13 and a half centimeters. And then hopping along over to this is a Chinese gilt bronze enamel finial and a little hexagonal copper gilt copper box, estimated at 500 to 800 pounds. Another really attractive example. There you have the enamel on this looks very, very good. This looks like it probably dates to the early 19th century. This isn't a late thing. That looks like it's got some real age to it, and good color and good relief work and so forth. And I always like these finials. I like the dragon on top. It's very, very pretty. 500 to 800 pound estimate. Probably get there. It measures about, what is this? About, how big is this? 4 inches tall, roughly, a little over 10 centimeters. And then there's a number of good brush pots in the sale. This is the one I like the best. It's one of these tree trunk forms. And you see these fairly often, but you don't see them done like this one very often because it's lacquered. Most of the time, these are just left raw wood and they're oiled and they're very beautiful. There's nothing wrong with them. This is one that they did in a black lacquer with a red lacquer around the knots and around on the branches. It's very, very nice. Nice crackle finish to the lacquer. It's got some flaking and so forth on here, which is pretty minimal considering that this is on a piece of wood that would be getting damp and expanding and contracting and so forth. And the lacquer, it will pop off a bit if it can't take the shift in the wood due to shrinkage from drying out when the moisture leaves it. During this, from the humid season to the dry season. So to speak, or central heat, worse yet. But anyway, this is a nice looking pot, beautifully done, good color, and unusual because it's lacquered. And the estimate on it's very reasonable, 500 to 1,000 pounds. I don't see why it won't get that or probably exceed it. And then over here, there's some good soapstone examples. These are late Qing to early Republic examples. One of them is done in the form of a brush rest on this side here. With the lohan and children and so forth in the foreground and pine trees and things like that. And then on the right, you have a recumbent lohan. Looks like he's lecturing a couple of kids. One of them is going through his basket looking for something. It's charming. Nice picture, good color, nice warm honey finish to the soapstone. 200 to 300 pounds. I think it's going to do a little better than that. I suspect it'll bring probably upwards of 1,000 pounds, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll go back and visit all this after the sale, see how they did. And then there's this. This is lovely. This is a nice jade boy and a monkey carving. And these are always fairly small. This one is 7 centimeters in height, or about just around 3 inches. And but this one has very, very nice color. It's got a little russet on the top, which the carver very nicely incorporated into like hair on his head. And then you have these very puffy cheeks, this nice little smile on his face. Here's the monkey on his back and so forth. But notice in the highlights where the light reflects, you can see how well this was polished. This was a beautifully done example. Right there is a good example of that polish going on. And this is a very fine example. And I think this will probably do better than the estimate. In the past, when we've seen ones of this quality, they tend to bring somewhere in the $1,800 to $2,500 range. A number of years ago, I think we had a set of 4 of them. I think we got over 20,000 for them. So this should do pretty well. This should do pretty well. They're just dating it as 19th century. And that's all they're saying about it. And there's no reserve on it. There are some unreserved lots in the sale. So when you go through, always check for reserves because often there aren't any. And those are the ones that you could get a really nice buy out of. All right, and then over here is another one. This is another charming jade. I usually don't talk too much about jades, but I really like this one. It's a celadon jade, the figure of change. And this is one of the goddesses. It is 17th or 18th century, and it measures 8 centimeters in height. So it's about around 3 inches tall. But wonderful example because the jade stone itself has these beautifully naturally aligned fissures accretions going through them. And this one is beautifully, it has a beautiful pattern to it. And I think the carver did a great job incorporating them into the work. And here they are on the chest and so forth, and then up through the face, and nicely detailed, beautiful hair work on it, good detail around the eyes and nose and so forth. A beautiful piece, estimated at 500 to 1,000 pounds. And that should probably do a good bit better than that. All right, so don't be surprised. And then snuff bottles, as I said, there are quite a few snuff bottles on the sale. There's a couple of pages of snuff bottles. There's some very, very good examples. This one just happens also to be Jade again. I wasn't picking it because it's Jade. It's just that it's a peach form, and I think it's quite charming and beautifully done. Wonderful low relief carving of the peach leaf on the top. It's got this. It looks like a silver and probably green jade stopper in there, and then down at the bottom you have the leaves and the stems coming off of it and so forth. This is a very nice snuff bottle, and again, that soft polished finish on the surface, very, very attractive. And this is the color of the stone is excellent. It's only estimated at 8 to 1,200 pounds. Expect it to get probably, I think, double that. And now this pair of, they're calling them a near pair of Chinese celadon conch-shaped trigram vases, because one of them, I guess, is slightly taller than the other one, I guess, is really the difference. And one of them has a slightly different glaze color. But this is a Marken period one, Guangxu period, both of them. And beautifully done, and it's got this nice crackle finish to it. Sometimes you do see them with crackles, and I've had them over the years. This is a nice crackle finished example. Very good coloring, and the estimate is ridiculously low, in my opinion. There's the bottom of it. You often see this black stuff, this tar, on the foot rims of these Guangxu vases, by the way. Don't be surprised to see that. This one measures about 11 inches tall, or each of them around 11 inches, Marken period. But the estimate is $500 to $1,000. Get a condition report on it. These should bring, for the pair, 12 to 18,000. They must be restored. There must be something. I can't imagine why they have that estimate on them. If they certainly do appear to be Marken period, and that's maybe just their way of saying, they're basically unreserved, because that's an extremely low estimate. They have some provenance. They belong to a fellow named David Allen Erskine Bell, who died in 1938. They'd been in his collection. These look absolutely great. And you look at his dates, 1885 to 1938. All right. So these are clearly not modern, and they're beautifully done. They don't look modern anyway, but they're beautifully done. And then hopping along over to this, I'm just showing these. These aren't Kangxi or anything. These are just nice, very attractive 19th century, very well-rounded jars. These jars are really round. They're 42 centimeters in height, or around 16 inches or so, but very nicely done. These are extremely decorative, extremely attractive. Beautiful color, cobalt, beautiful potting on these. The potting I found on them to be extremely strong, and they're good size. They're handsome. They're very rotund, and they're only estimated at 1,000 to 2,000 pounds, which seems awfully low to me. Seems awfully low. And then over to this, there's a nice Tang ovoid jar. There's a well-known type. Often you see them with a yellow amber glaze, or you see them with the green glaze. Typically, this is one with the green glaze. Measures a little over 6 inches in height, estimated at $800 to $1,200. But if you've been looking for a nice piece of Tang pottery, this is a good one. This has nice color. There you go. Beautifully potted, looks to be in good condition, very finely, finished off on the wheel down here, nice and smooth body, that good white body that you look for on these. The glaze looks fine, so give that a shot, the modest estimate. And then you have this, and I'm showing this. I don't, you normally Blanc de Chine pieces, these libation cups turn up all the time. This one is huge. This one is 8 inches. They're saying 19.6 centimeters, and I'm assuming they mean the width. It can't be that tall. Maybe it is. And if it's that tall, if that's 8 inches tall, how wide is it? 11 inches? 12 inches? But regardless, even if this is 8 inches of width, that is a very, very, very big 18th century piece of Blanc de Chine. And the casting on it's wonderful. The detail of the dragon at the bottom, below the other dragons, and the flaming pearl up here, is really, really good. And very thin edge on it, nicely done with a shaped rim. This is a beautiful piece of Blanc de Chine, and the estimate is very reasonable. 500 to 1,000 pounds. I think it'll do a good bit better than that. It's extremely rare size on these. Most of these libation cups are, they're roughly 4.5 to 6 inches in width. This one is about 8 or 9 inches in width. roughly 8 inches in width. It's much. It'll look quite large when you see it. So it's something worth going after. And then the last one is this. And again, this is an estimate that has me completely befuddled. I don't understand the estimate at all. 200 to 300 pounds. They're dating it, and John at Wooley and Wallis knows how to date things very well. And he's dating it as 18th or Yongchen to early Qianlong period. Spectacular quality of 2 European figures. And I have no idea why the estimate is that low. This vase should bring thousands of dollars. And get a condition report on these and try to find out why they put the estimate so low on this if they feel that it's Yongchen to Qianlong period. I don't understand. It's not marked, but that even though it's not marked, it is such a rare subject matter and so beautifully done. And I am completely mystified by it. I would think this would be estimated at 3,000 to 5,000 and probably bring 7 or 8. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But that to me looks like a heck of a nice vase. Very unusual with a very, very low estimate. And it came from the collection of Richard Barker, whoever he was. If anybody knows who he was, maybe he had an amazing collection. I don't know. But this is a terrific thing. And it just says brightly painted and colorful enamels with a European man offering a blue jay to a lady who holds the hand of a child. And that's all it says. All right. So those are just sort of skimming across these 3 sales. There's too much in here to go into too much detail on. Otherwise, I'd be here for a day and you'd all get sick of me. But it's all of these 3 of these sales look really interesting. If you can go to them and preview, by all means, go. And if you're living in the UK, go to them and go to the sale. Check into a hotel, make a weekend of it. Make a vacation, a little mini vacation out of it, and go to these sales and buy some great things. There's some good things in here. Clearly, they don't have big reserves on things, which is a very smart way to do things these days. And it looks like they have a very, very nice bunch of things on offer here. So do check it out. All right. And that's it. So have a great week. We'll be back with we'll do the Japanese sale as soon as we can, because there's some terrific things in there. And there are other sales coming up, and we'll try to get to them as well. All right. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.